Yes, people, what's happening? And welcome back to the Gav Goes In podcast. Big up yourselves, guys, for coming in. Big up DXR. Big up to Barbara Joseph. So DXR says Abby Summers getting cooked on Twitter. Abby Summers, is that the Tottenham fan? Her racist tweets, mate. Big up DXR. If you've got any of the tweets or any of the evidence, put that in the chat, bro, man. I think she might be the Tottenham fan from sure. But big up yourself anyway. Yeah, put that in the chat, man, if you can, and we'll get into that in a bit. So guys, listen. Thomas Tuchel, has named his England squad for the games against Andorra and Senegal. And to be honest with you, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what to make of this England team. If I'm honest, big up DXR, guys. Listen, we're gonna discuss this England squad, and then we're gonna get into the quotes that's been made by some Abby Summers. But big up, man. Yeah, we'll talk on that after, bro. No worries, man. So guys, England squad versus Andorra and Senegal. So for me, I don't know what to make of this really, because I'm looking at the opposition first and foremost, yeah. And I believe is it the qualifiers? I'm not too sure. If anyone knows, make sure you put that in the chat. But what I would say is that England are playing Andorra, yeah, and why do we need to keep seeing the same old players in this squad for games against? Guys, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Big up everyone. Guys, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Big up everyone. So yeah, so we're gonna go through this England squad, and as I said, I think the fact that big up to Sham as well. The fact that England are playing Andorra, the same old faces find themselves in the squad. I think what we need to realize as well is that when it comes to the major tournaments, a lot of these players that are in the squad, regardless of how they're performing, they're gonna be in the final squad anyway. So I don't understand why managers just don't give other players a chance and see what they've got to offer. You know, as I said, Senegal is going to prove the toughest test. I mean, England are going to batter Andorra. But what does that do? I mean, I expect England to beat Andorra 9-10-0, but England ain't really going to get nothing out of this game because Andorra, they're poor. I mean, they're part-time footballers. So the fact that this same old squad just seems to be getting picked, again, is a massive concern. But we're going to go through the squad anyway, and I'm going to give you my view on who shouldn't be in the squad, because they're always there, and it's a case of just give other players minutes and see what they got to offer. So we're going to go through goalkeepers. Dean Henderson. So do you know what? Dean Henderson, fair enough. Big up Barbara Joseph. So Dean Henderson, fair enough. Yeah. Obviously just won the FA Cup with Crystal Palace. Has had a good season. So you'd expect to see him in there. Jordan Pickford. I mean, Pickford plays every game, Why he's in the squad, I don't know. Just leave him out, because when it comes to the major tournaments, you're obviously going to pick him. So why he needs to be in the squad, and is he going to play yet again? I mean, I don't understand why you've got other keepers there with the possibility of them not even playing. So for me, Pickford just needs to be out the squad, rested, and you know that you're going to play him in the major tournaments because he's the most experienced keeper and he's obviously the number one. So I don't see why he's back in the squad again against teams like Andorra, James Trafford obviously got promoted with Burnley. Again, up-and-coming keeper. Yes, I see that one, So Trafford and Henderson, I understand, give them game time. Pickford's always in the squad. I don't see the use for Pickford being there because, again, when it comes to the major tournaments, we know he's going to play. So it's pretty pointless, really, him being there. Then we move on to the defenders. Trent, obviously, making that move to Real Madrid. Trent possibly starts as well, I would say. I think he might start. Again, yes, I can see him in the squad, fair enough. Dan Burn, the same, Newcastle. had a very good season and obviously does deserve his place in there. Obviously, a call up for Trevor Chalobah, his first call up. And for me, I think the fact that Tuchel is the manager, this is why I think Chalobah's in the squad, because a lot of players, ex-Chelsea players that he had, are all in the squad. And we know when he was there, he was playing a lot of the players that are in this squad now. So the Chalobah one, fair enough. Same with Levi Colwill. He's been called up as well. Obviously, he's been playing regularly for Chelsea. Reece James, no-brainer for me. As I said, Reece James on his day is the best right back in the game. So there's no problem there for me. Ezri Konsa, yep, I can see that one. Yeah, I think Konsa for me should be a starter for England, if I'm honest. You know, I look at the defence they've got now, and I think he's someone that should be staking a claim to be a regular starter for England now. Definitely. Lewis-Skelly again. Yep, I see that one. You know, Lewis-Skelly's had a very good season. And if you look at the left-backs in this squad, the only other left-back really is Dan Burn, who can play there, and Levi Cole at a push. So Lewis-Skelly's going to start. And again, he's the new up-and-coming left-back in this England squad. And I think you're going to expect him to be the number one for the foreseeable, in my opinion. So I see that one. Kyle Walker. I mean, I don't get the Kyle Walker one. I think the manager will say he's bringing Kyle Walker for his experience. But Kyle Walker's been there, done it with England. And what is the point of bringing him back? You know, just let Kyle Walker go. You know, you've got Reece James, you've got Trent in there that play right back. I don't see the need for Kyle Walker unless you're going to play three at the back, you know, where he plays as a right side centre back. But then again, you've got Trevor Chalobah there, so that you've brought in, you know. So I don't really see the point of Kyle Walker being there yet again. Again, just like Pickford, these guys have had their time with England, you know, and maybe Walker's coming to the end of his England career. But for me, unless can I see him being part of the squad in the squad at the major tournaments going forward? I'm not too sure. But just like Pickford, these guys have had so many caps, so I don't see why they keep getting picked all the time. It just doesn't make any sense, you know. Moving on to midfielders. Again, Jude Bellingham, another guy that, you know, he's gonna be picked for the major tournaments. So if he's in the squad, you know, I want to see him on the bench and let other players get a game, because again, they're playing against Andorra, you know, and a tougher game against Senegal. So the Andorra game, I think we might see a changed team, but then again, who knows? So but Bellingham for me will be in the squad for the major tournaments. But just like Pickford, what is the point of him being in the squad? I mean, if he's in the squad taking up a place, that's a problem. If he's starting for me against Andorra, that's a problem, because you want to give other players game time. Eze, 100% in there, just like Dean Henderson, had a great season. You know, just won the FA Cup with the winner as well. So yeah, and again, I want to see Eze get some starts, because he's someone that hasn't really been playing as regularly for England. So he definitely deserves to start. I mean, Conor Gallagher, the fact that he keeps finding himself in squads, I don't understand. You know, I'm not a massive fan of Conor Gallagher, to be fair. You know, and the fact that under multiple managers, this guy just seems to find himself in squads is just ridiculous, really. You know, I haven't really been watching Atletico Madrid too much, but I don't know how he's been getting on. But the fact that he's in there ahead of some other players that we'll go into after doesn't make sense to me. Morgan Gibbs-White, again, you know, had a very good season for Nottingham Forest. You know, he's someone that I want to see given game time and see what he can do. You know, whether he plays as a 10 or plays slightly deeper or from the left, who knows? Not sure what this manager has in mind, but does deserve his place in there. I mean, Jordan Henderson, probably the most joke of the squad. How Henderson has found himself back in the squad is confusing at the expense of other players that could have been in there. And again, is he going to start? I don't know. I mean, if you're going to start him against Andorra, from what's been picked, possibly. Because I look at this squad now, and it's only actually three central midfielders in there. So he might have a chance of starting. Well, five actually, should I say. And going on to Curtis Jones. Again, Curtis Jones had a good season for a decent season for Liverpool. Obviously, come off the back of winning the league as well, so he'll be fairly confident. So whether he starts in these games, I think the Andorra one he could get a start, but again, we're not sure if this manager wants to go strong with his supposed best team. Cole Palmer again, not had a great season by his standards, but a shoe-in and obviously in the squad, so there's no problem there. Just like Jude Bellingham and Jordan Pickford, Declan Rice again played a lot of football this season, is definitely going to be in the squad, in the lineup for the major tournaments. So again, why he's being picked? If it's part of the squad to just be there, then you might look and think, well, another player could have been there. But if he's going to play games again, what different are we going to learn about Declan Rice? You know what I mean? We know he's going to start in the major tournaments, so why is he going to be there yet again? I don't understand that. Morgan Rogers, again, massive fan of Morgan Rogers, and I expect to see Rogers start for England more or less in both games. You know, I think these will be the two games so we can see what Rogers can do. You know, because a lot of his games have been, you know, appearances from the bench, and I think it's about time we see him get some regular game time for England now. Anthony Gordon again, just come back off suspension, hasn't been that great since he's come back, and but if I'm looking at left wingers in this system, he's possibly the only one. I mean, you've got obviously Morgan Rogers who can play out there, and Eze, but in terms of wingers, he's probably the only one in that sense. On that left-hand side. Noni Madueke, again, surprised he's been called up, you know, but has been playing regularly for Chelsea. And then, obviously, Bukayo Saka returning back from injury. And another one just like Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, Jordan Pickford. These guys are going to be in the squads for the major tournaments. So why they're there, I'm not too sure, you know. I just think that it's a chance to give game time to other players. And then if we go on to the forwards, another player, the captain again, just like the others I've mentioned. Why Harry Kane's here, I don't know. Harry Kane, we know, you know, if England have one more tournament, well, he might have one more tournament in him, possibly. Harry Kane, we know he's the captain. We know he's going to play every game when it comes into the major tournaments. So why he needs to be in this squad against Andorra and Senegal, again, doesn't make sense, you know. And just like I say with Bellingham, Rice, Saka and Pickford, we know they're going to be there. So if Kane starts against Andorra, again, what are we learning by that? And the same against Senegal, really. I think it's time to give other players a chance. Ollie Watkins obviously been called up as well, you know. Obviously had a decent ending to the season for Villa, you know, and obviously they got one more game against United, which they'll be hoping that they win to get themselves in the Champions League. And then a recall for Ivan Toney, which, again, I didn't see happening. But for me, Ivan Toney, again, is one of England's best players, you know, and the fact that he's been recalled is good news. But again, is he going to get any starts, any game time? Because Harry Kane's there, and we know Harry Kane plays every game, and this is the problem. So I think that, I think that we'll have to wait and see. But as I said, they're playing Andorra and Senegal. You know, I hate seeing England play these teams. You know, I like watching when they play against the top nations in the world, and you can see where they really are. You know, but yeah, you expect them to batter Andorra. As I'm saying, 9-10-0 against Andorra. I think against Senegal it'll be tight because Senegal have some good players. So that game could go either way, really. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if England sneak it, or if it's a draw. You know, or Senegal, you know, never know. They could win the game as well. But against Andorra, yeah, it's just going to be the same old shit, really, you know. And then, guys, I've put down as well, and again, give me your comments, guys, if you think that this England team is just predictable. I've put down I've put down some players that have missed out. There's obviously a few that are injured. So the likes of Tino Livramento, Jared Bowen, and Harry Maguire are all out injured. And how surprising, guys, that Harry Maguire is actually out injured. You know, is he definitely injured, or is it a case where he's not he don't want to play the last game against Aston Villa because the season's done now? Funny that, isn't it? But we'll have to wait and see. But guys that have been obviously been dropped from the squad, you know, or not selected. So Jarell Quansah, obviously Jarell Quansah from Liverpool. Again, you know, Quansah hasn't really had much game time, you know, so he's not in there. John Stones, obviously, is injured as well, injury prone. And again, with John Stones, it's going to be interesting to see if how his England career goes from now on, because I think he's coming to the end of his time for both Man City and England, because obviously he can't stay fit. So we have to wait and see on that one. Mark Guehi, obviously not in the squad. I think Guehi must be injured. I know he come off in the FA Cup final, so that must be why he's not in the squad, because that's a bit surprising. I don't think Amarim on my mind, bloody hell. I don't think Tuchel would have dropped him, so I'm thinking he must be injured. Max Kilman as well from West Ham, you know, left-footed centre-back. Obviously, you've got Dan Burn, who's ahead of him. You know, guys, as I mentioned, Phil Foden. I did tell you about Phil Foden. Phil Foden for England and for Man City. I think Phil Foden needs to be looking at himself and thinking, where is his career going? I think he's 24 now, I think. And he's not a regular starter for both club and country. And again, who would have thought this? Because the amount of hype he was getting, you know, and again, Phil Foden is a good football player, but his career has declined, really, let's say. Who would have thought that? Because not being called up for England, which was to be expected, because he hasn't really been playing regularly or well for Man City, and he's not a regular in that City team either. You know, didn't even start the final. So again, he's got a massive season next season if he's going to get much game time to see what happens. You know, Rico Lewis as well. You know, Rico Lewis not called up. And if I look at the squad, if I look at the fullbacks, again you've got Reece James, Trent, and Walker in there that are ahead of him. Left back, lewis-skelly's there, and Lewis can play left back. But yeah, no call up for Rico Lewis. And again, he's got next season to try and show Pep that he's a useful player in the squad. You know, so they got it all to do. Tyreek Mitchell from Crystal Palace. As I said, I think the fact that Henderson and Eze were called up, you know, was obvious because of the FA Cup heroics and the season they've had. But I thought in terms of the left backs, there's only Lewis-Skelly in there. So I thought at least they would have gone for a Mitchell, you know, maybe to compete with Lewis-Skelly. And again, they're playing Andorra. So why he's not trying other players out doesn't make sense to me, really, you know. But another player that's missed out. Jack Grealish, you know, again, someone that hasn't been playing regularly. I think in the same boat as Phil Foden. Again, big season for Jack Grealish next season. And whether that's going to be at Man City, who knows. But a player of his quality should be in the England squad, definitely. And the one, guys, that I've got a few more, but the one that I don't understand, you know, and this is what I'm trying to say about this England team, is Adam Wharton. Why Adam Wharton is not in that squad, you know, Thomas Tuchel really has to be questioned on that, because Adam Wharton is one of the best up-and-coming midfielders in England. You know, just won an FA Cup with Palace, but yet he's not in the squad, but the likes of Jordan Henderson is in there. You know, doesn't make any sense to me. Because if you're going to put Henderson in there and there's no Adam Wharton, doesn't make not one bit of sense, you know. And again, they're playing Andorra and Senegal, so why wouldn't these players get some game time? You know, because Adam Wharton, for me, is a future England international. So why not blood him into the squad now and see how he gets on? Obviously, you got Harvey Barnes as well. had an okay season for Newcastle. And I think he might feel a bit aggrieved that Gordon's just come back and is in the squad, having not really played too well, and he's not. And again, Jacob Murphy, I think he was more of an outside chance, but the season that he's had, to be fair, he's had a very good season. And I think, you know, again, if you're giving it to players on form who's done well for the season, he deserved the mention, definitely, you know. But obviously he's not, if he can't get a call up on the form that he's shown, so I think in terms of goals and assists, I think there's only 2 or 3 players better than him in the league, I think, if I remember what I see last time. But if he's not getting called up now, he's never going to get called up. So it is what it is. Lewis Dunk, again, Brighton, obviously just come back from injury as well, you know, so I don't expect him to get called up. Danny Welbeck, you know, Danny Welbeck he's got a decent record for England as well. And I think he was more of an outside chance, but I think in terms of how he's performed this season, Welbeck deserves a mention as well. Smith Rowe, again, was never going to get called up, but worth a mention. Lewis Cook from Bournemouth, you know, had a decent season, can play right back and centre midfield. But again, you know, with the options that England have, he's more of an outside one, but obviously still worth a mention. Nketiah, again, just like Smith Rowe, never going to get called up. Other strikers ahead of him. Man United, to think Man United haven't got one representative from their club in the England squad just shows you what an all-time low this club is at. You know, Man United back in the day used to have about 3 or 4 players in that squad, England squad, regardless. Yeah. Now they can't even get 1 player in there. Obviously, Harry Maguire's out injured. Yeah. Kobe Mainu, again, who started for England in the Euros, is not even getting called up. Obviously, Luke Shaw, forget about it, you know. And again, guys, this just shows you what an all-time low this club is at. To not have 1 representative from Man United in that England squad is concerning, man. And if ever you wanted to see how this club has gone down, that just shows you right there, you know. Dominic Solanke, again, just won the Europa League with Tottenham. If we look at the options of Kane, Ivan Toney and Ollie Watkins. Again, Watkins is at Villa, obviously going for Champions League. Ivan Toney just got recalled, and obviously Harry Kane's the captain. And this is why I said, why is Kane there again, knowing that he's going to play in the major tournament? Put Solanke in there and give other strikers a game. But this manager, for some reason, is just picking the same players that we've seen throughout the years. And then we've got other outsiders, which are worth a mention. Jed Spence, you know, can play right back and left back. I think he would have been a very good option for England. You know, if we look at, as I say, Carl Walker's back in there again. You know, if we look at the fullback options, you know, Dan Burn can play left back. Colwell can play left back, even though both of them will probably play, you know, centre backs or left side of a 3. But if you look at the fullbacks, you've got Trent, Reece James, lewis-skelly, and Carl Walker. Now, as I said about Carl Walker, why not give Jed Spence a chance? Someone that can play both sides and see how he gets on, you know. Archie Gray as well was never going to get called up to the senior squad, but worth a mention. Liam Delap, guys. I think Liam Delap, as I've mentioned previously, I think he's the heir to Harry Kane's throne, in my opinion. I think out of all the strikers that England are producing now, he's the closest one that offers something similar to what Kane does. I just think he's more mobile than Harry Kane. You know, I think he'd probably be in the 21s, but, you know, again, against Andorra, against Senegal, why not give him a chance to play and, you know, and see what he can do, you know? And then we've got Amari Hutchinson, again, other wide players that are ahead of him. Leif Davis, again, from the same club, Ipswich, left back, again, Tyrick Mitchell not getting called up, so you wouldn't expect Davis to either. And then Tyler Diblin from Southampton, again, worth a mention. And I think the likes of Dibbling, Delap, you know, Spence, Mainu, Adam Walton, from the ones that haven't been picked, I'm looking at them as, you know, maybe Hutchinson, I'm not too sure, maybe. I'm looking at them players as the future for England, and not one of them got called up. So again, this England team is just the same old stuff, really. You know, with the same players. They're gonna batter Andorra, and they should do as well. Senegal, they'll probably just beat them. But what are we actually gonna learn from that anyway? You know. But yeah, guys, it is what it is. But big up yourselves. Gonna go through some of the questions. So yeah, big up DXR says Abby Summers getting cooked on Twitter. So let's see what's been said. So she said she got chatted up by some black boy at the 3rd floor and felt uncomfortable. Yeah, and you know what? Yeah, this is society as a whole. You know, to think that she can use that kind of terminology. You know, chatted up by some black boy. Like, why can't you just say you got chatted up by someone or by a guy? Why black boy? Why are you trying to pinpoint black boy? And you felt uncomfortable. Why? Was he wearing a hood? You know what I mean? What was he aggressive that you guys like to try and run with? You know, the fact that that terminology is being used, you know, am I surprised? I'm not, you know. But again, guys, these are the kind of things that's going on, you know. Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. I'm not really going to go too much onto that because I've seen a lot of these things before, and the fact that she's that free to talk like that is a problem in itself, you know, because she could have just said she got chatted up by some guy. But the fact that black boy and felt uncomfortable, yeah, a whole lot of nonsense, really, you know, and she needs to be checked for stuff like that, man, definitely. Then said there's no English people in England. Yeah, well, oh man, listen, you know what, man. As I said, some people's views and stuff like that are just ridiculous, man. And as I said, you know, I'm not surprised because England's just one of them countries, man. Unfortunately, where people just come out with these reckless talk, man. And yeah, as I said, she needs to be checked for that, man. Definitely. But again, I've not seen the tweet. I've not heard what's happened. But yeah, definitely, man. That's not on, you know. But again, why are we surprised? Why are we surprised? But big up DXR for that. Yeah, Sham, no worries. Cool, man. She then said, hopefully AVB will tell them. So she then said, hopefully AVB will tell them to stay in Africa. No, I'm not believing that, man. Are they real quotes, DXR? If they're real quotes, put them in, man, because, I mean, that is just mad to say that. She then said, hopefully AVB, I'm thinking, is that Andre Villas-Boas, will tell them to stay in Africa. Yeah, that's mad. That's mad. But the thing is, I want to see if they're real quotes, because to think if she's actually said that, it just shows you, you know, that these people just don't give a damn what they say, and there's no consequences, and this is the problem, you know. But if they're real quotes, put that in the chat. Big up to Roderick Lee. So I'm from the UK, man. Big up. So Killer says, when England playing next? Good question, man. I don't really pay that much attention to England, if I'm honest. I think they're playing, I want to say next week, might be. But again, when they're playing teams like Andorra, I mean, what's the point in watching it? They're gonna beat them, you know. And as I said, you expect them to beat them by 10, which, you know, is standard, really. But yeah, I'm not too sure, to be honest. Killer says, about time Foden not playing for England. He can't get England over the line. Bring Eze and some others now. But again, as I said earlier, remember I done a stream on Phil Foden and how much he's regressed. And as I said, his career for England and Man City is in danger, because who would have thought that the so-called golden boy that they were trying to portray he was, who would have thought that he can't get a regular game time for both England and Man City now? Because that was never on the cards, you know. When he was coming through when he was coming through Man City's first team playing, you know, they were trying to shoehorn him into the team, one of England's first names as an attacker, and you know they were trying to do that with Man City as well. He's definitely not going to play for England in the next 2 qualifiers, and for Man City, who's to say that he's going to get his place back? Because that doesn't like going to happen. So so Killer says, who would you have, Foden or Grealish? For me, Jack Grealish. You know, I think Phil Foden's a very good footballer, but I just think Jack Grealish just has that X factor for me. You know, and I would say Grealish for me. You know. But I do think Foden's a good player, but he needs to sort it out, man, and force his way back into both Man City and England. Bad Sheep says, mate, Eze is the future. Geezer is sick. Listen, I'm a massive fan of Eze. I want Eze to sign for United ahead of Cunha, if I'm deadly honest. You know, I like Cunha, but I've always said Eze. So yeah, I'm a massive fan of Eze. So whoever gets him is gonna have a very good player on their hands. But I think the fact that Palace have won the Europa, you know, it's gonna be hard to get him out of there now. You would think, because it's gonna cost an extra 20 million on top of what his value was already anyway. Killer says, I heard Grealish loves a session. Apparently he does. He loves a drink, you know, but he's got the Irish in him, innit? So them guys like drinking. So you would think so. So Rob Barker says England can't win big matches. I agree. Whenever England play against the very best, whether it's, you know, in Europe against the likes of France, Belgium, Holland, Italy, Germany, Portugal, Spain, you know, the top nations, especially when it matters, they don't get the job done because these nations just have too much to offer, more than what England does, you know. And then obviously if we're looking at the World Cups, you know, the Brazils, the Argentinas, you know, they'll struggle against them nations, because them nations just have too much quality, and then they have the winning mentality to go with it in the end as well. So yeah, but it's all right when they're playing the likes of these Andorras and that, you know, they get excited, but these things mean nothing, you know. Killer says, I hope Livramento and Lewis Hall is the future for England. They personally unbelievable for Newcastle. I think in terms of the fullbacks, you know, I don't think both players will be the future for England. And not because they're not good enough. It's because if you look at England now, you know, you've got lewis-skelly playing for Arsenal, you know, 18 years of age, and he looks like he's a new one on the block in terms of left backs. You know, they might be trying to do a similar thing with him like they were doing with Ashley Cole. And I think Lewis Hall had a good season before he got injured, but I think he's got to contend with lewis-skelly. And as long as lewis-skelly is at Arsenal and they're trying to get into the Champions League and competing to try and win the league, I think he's always going to be slightly ahead of Lewis Hall now, I would say. Because, to be fair, he's a very good player, lewis-skelly. And the fact that he's only 18 years of age as well, you know, he could be the left-back for years to come. You know, so Lewis Hall has it all to do, really, unless Newcastle start doing a similar thing to Arsenal. And then Livramento, to be honest with you, he's another one. He might have a tough time because although Carl Walker's on his way out, but he's still got to try and find a way past Reece James and Trent Alexander-Arnold, you know. So, and again, one's at Chelsea, one's going to Real Madrid. So I think both players are good enough, but whether they're going to be the future, I can't see it, you know, unless they just go on some mad form and Newcastle are winning titles or Champions Leagues, you know. But big up. So DX said these are 2012-13 tweets. Okay. So how comes they're only coming out now, them tweets then? Why is it only coming out now? She get inflamed in Twitter. So DXL says, like Tottenham players, fam, for real. She then deleted tweets. There's screenshots. How do I send it to you? Yeah, bro. Yeah, if you can upload it here, man, then by all means. Okay, yeah, I'll give that. Let me have a check of that quickly. Let me see this. Bro, if you can, just send it to me after the stream's finished, and I'll have a read if you can, man. Yeah, send it to me after the stream's ended. I'll give that a look. So Charles Ellis says, what's the topic? Football. You know, talking about the England squad that's been named and the players that have been left out. So yeah, if you just joined in, guys, only 6 likes. Again, if you're just coming in there now and you enjoy the content as well, make sure you smash that like button. Just one press of that button, and again, make sure you subscribe to my channel at GavGoesIn. And guys, give my if you was on my stream the other day, was it yesterday I done it? I think it might have been yesterday. Give my content a watch about the Europa League fallout, man. So some good things in there, you know. As I said, you know, I've seen some news today about Ruben Amorim I believe from the ownership, you know, saying, I can't remember what, if anyone's got the quotes from the ownership today. What I've seen there is another disgrace, guys. I think again, I don't really want to misquote it unless someone's got the quotes that can put them in the chat. But I see something about, you know, we can't judge him on one game. And you know what? Part of me thinks, are these things being done on purpose? Because we're not looking at one game. We're not looking at one game. It's the whole season. Again, I read out to you guys the negative records that this manager has broke, you know. And these idiots have the cheat to say it's one. We're not going to decide on one game. It's not one game, you know. But again, I'm not sure whether this has been done on purpose, because some of these things that come out, I can't actually believe it, you know. And as I said, I think Man United have a huge decision to make, you know, in terms of where they're going as a club, you know, because they can't be going forward with this manager, surely not, you know. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see, man. But I'm just fed up with this season. As I say, Aston Villa on Sunday, you know. I think Aston Villa will win the game as well, because they've got something to play for. Man United really haven't got nothing to play for. So the morale of the squad, you know, obviously there's certain things that's come out over the last couple of days as well. But the morale of the squad is going to be low, and Aston Villa have everything to play for to get into that Champions League. So yeah, it's going to be problems. Killer says, do you think Arsenal will be second or first next season in league? I see next season being tougher if they don't get their striker they need, and that's not only position needs looked at. Yeah, listen, for me, I don't believe Arsenal finish in the top 2 next season. You know, I don't believe so. I think next season is going to be difficult. You know, I think I can't tell you what the top 4, top 5 is going to be, because I think there's a lot of teams that are going for that. But what I will say is that I don't believe Arsenal are in the top 2 next season. You know, I think now is when it goes downhill for Arsenal for me, because I think they had their chance to go for the league to win the league title. You know, again, they have finished second for the last 3 seasons, but it's ironic that, you know, they've been the first position has been replaced by Man City and Liverpool. You know, they've been interchanging, while Arsenal have remained the second team. But I think next season, yeah, you're gonna see the decline of Arsenal for me. I don't see them finishing top 2. You know, I'll go as far as saying top 3 might be a bit of an arse for them next season, because I think their team, I think it's more or less been found out, if I'm honest now, you know. And I think you'll see a few of their players as well start questioning the future of the club, because if we look at William Saliba, for instance, you know, Saliba's rated very highly, and he might be looking at, you know, Real Madrid, Barcelona, you know, who knows? So he's definitely one. I think Saka's come through the youth, so I think he'd be, you know, unlikely, but he might be questioning his future, you know. I think younger players like Ethan Nwaneri should be demanding game time, you know, next season. And again, I think it all comes down to do with who they're going to buy. You know, I think Arsenal, for me, as we all know, they need to get a striker in. But whether that happens, who knows? You know, who knows? But they've got it all to do for me, definitely. You know, Killer says, I think Arsenal will get in Champions League. I predict Chelsea losing point against Forest. Well, listen, if Chelsea don't get Champions League, I don't know what to say, really, because that'll be unacceptable, you know. And again, I've mentioned already, Maresca needs to really look at himself. But whether I've heard that Chelsea are satisfied if they don't get Champions League or Euro or the conference or win Conference League, which, I mean, I don't believe that, because the standards that Chelsea have and have been having, that just seems like it's not serious, you know. But who knows, man? We'll have to wait and see. But guys, listen up. Big up yourselves for coming on each and every time. Obviously, been going for 40 minutes. You know, obviously just wanted to go through the England squad. And guys, let me know after the stream has ended. Let me know what you think of the England squad. Is there anyone that should have been included or not been included? And again, appreciate everyone for coming through, you know, contributing to the channel. I think we're on 1,030 subscribers, I think. You know, so obviously trying to hit the next milestone there. And again, if it's your first time in there and you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. And if you haven't smashed that like button as well, make sure you do. Obviously, helping the channel to grow. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see, guys, what happens. We'll have to wait and see what happens come the end of the season, you know. Because as I said, I've had my say on Amarim now. It's down to Ineos. What I've heard today is a bit concerning, but whether that's real quotes or whether that's them just saying that, because I've heard these things before and then they end up sacking the manager. But we'll have to wait and see, guys. But I'm going to be back tomorrow. I'm not sure what time, but I will obviously schedule it. But obviously, hopefully, there's some news on Man United. And we can see this club going in a different direction. But who knows? Who knows? But yeah, big up yourselves for coming on each and every time. As I said, keep an eye on my schedule. Check out my other content as well. And smash that like button. Subscribe to my channel. And I'll catch you guys in a bit. Take it easy.